today we're going to dive into another tech tool playground tip with Nikki Vradenburg.
So the next tool in Microsoft Home is this one here, Sway. So if you click on Sway, it opens up to a page that looks like this. Sway is a digital publishing tool. It's not quite PowerPoint. It's a little bit different than PowerPoint. And it's meant to create digital presentations. However, the nice thing is that it operates from a template automatically so that kids don't get lost in the graphics and the animations and the fonts and the layout of a PowerPoint. And the teachers who use this tell me that they cut down that time wasted editing the design part by having a nice template like this. So I'll show you some of them that I've already made. This is one I have a professional development group called Tilt, and we all had to come up with an introduction introducing ourselves. So this is what it looks like when you're creating it. And it's cards that are linked together. And within the cards, you insert text and graphics and put them together like this. When you play it, I've got this one set up so that you just scroll through it like this. Mm-hmm. That one's nice and big. Do you like that? There is my head. It is enormous. But it allows you to come and bring the text over like this and scroll through all of this. You can put in the cards with the photos and the cards going, things like this. So that's an example of what it looks like for presentation pieces. When you're creating one, it looks sort of like this. You go with, the cool thing also with Sway is you could start from a document, which means you could create an outline in Microsoft Word and import that outline, and then the text on that outline would automatically show up on your Sway, which is really nice. Again, high school teachers are going, perfect. Then they only put the stuff that I want them to on each card. And so they could create the content there in Word. And then they could start from the document in Sway, and it automatically showed up on their cards.
Yeah, that would save a lot of time for speeches and presentations. If you're working from an outline that you've already created in a Word doc, I could see that being very helpful for that easy transition.
Yeah, so starts here with this first card. You type something, you can add from your devices, or you can search for pictures using Bing, and you add those things. Then your plus sign gets you more things, and you choose to either add headings, text, images, or a stack, which gives you kind of a cool option that you'll have a group of things, either an image or some text. So you could put those things all in a stack, and then they all would appear here. And then you can kind of play with the animations of that stack so that they could lay on top of one another, or they can scroll out and around one another. So yeah, you could group them or ungroup them. And then they all come together, and over here you can have them stack. You can have them show up in a grid or a slideshow or something like that. So the stack is kind of a fun option. And then your plus sign, you can add more things. You can add more text. They make it really simple that you can choose to emphasize or accent your text, and that's it. So kids, again, don't get lost in the creation of these. It can be a heading, it can be emphasized, it can be accented, or it can be linked, but that's it. So we're not trying to find a different font for every letter and things like that.
And if the purpose is sharing the information that you've learned, keeping it straightforward and simple and focused, I could see why this saves a lot of time. It feels very intuitive and simple.
It is.
But yet still elegant to look at. Like when it's really finished, nice. It's still very elegant and nice to look at. It reminds me a little bit of the Adobe Spark web page option.
I think it's quite a bit like Adobe Spark, and I think it may have been modeled after Adobe Spark because they didn't want it quite to be PowerPoint because they already have that.
Right.
It's only an online tool. It's one of the few Microsoft tools that doesn't exist in the software package. And so it can be used if you don't have Office 365. You just need an MSN account, a Hotmail or a Live.com account, because people are using them to, chronicle vacations and things like that. I will say, if you come over here to design, you can choose your different styles. And here's again where we keep it pretty simple. These are the style options, and you can just run a test to see what it looks like, choosing your different style options. And they're fun, kids like this kind of stuff. And then once they're done, they're out of there, and there's the style option. Then sharing gives you the option of, sharing it with just a link or embedding it somewhere. You can create a password. We did have it is kind of clunky to share these. Across the domains, sharing links across the domains proved to be a little bit hard. So you had to make sure that you invited people to either view or edit, make sure that you wanted anyone with the link could get to it, and just changing all of that stuff so that people could get into it. And then people can watch them and look at them online. It's kind of a fun tool to use.
There's a clear sense of, if you're looking for something to put together a powerful presentation tool, but you don't want the students to get bogged down in all of the nitty-gritty of choosing fonts and colors and graphics, and just simplify and streamline the process, this is a really nice option for working from a document and importing it, but still having a very nice, visually appealing presentation tool that the kids could then really just scroll through. If they were giving a speech in class, they could just scroll through that information and just pause as they were talking.
They do have a lot of good templates too, and so they can go through their student report, resume, presentation, vacation story, so those templates then make it very easy to just kind of plug and play. So the templates, the images are there. Yes. We can just put in our text or replace some of the images as we need to. You can see how that's just it's really nice to look at. So
Nikki, can students work simultaneously on the same Sway like they sort of can with, Google Slides?
Anyone with the link can edit. So you could share that link and somebody else could get to it. And then, we could collaborate on this together.
As a quick comparison, this is what the Adobe Spark website looks like. And this is my working thing. So you can see, same thing. If I want to add something, I just click the plus button, and then I can add a photo, text, button, video, photo grid. Very similar to what you're talking about. So this is a button that goes to a link. And then you can add in, little videos. And then when you actually are looking at it, so this is the website option on Adobe Spark, but I also think that you could use this as like a Sway to do a presentation, because it does just scroll down, and then you have the links that go to different places, and you have videos, you can do the photo grids. And then you have like the glide show where the picture is behind it and images come up. You can add your text and talk about things, add a little insert video. So pretty similar to the flow of Sway. This one I think would take kids longer, and it does not have the upload from a Word document working on a template. So that's, I think, a disadvantage, because when students are going in and they start a new web page, they're just going to have a blank. and then the buttons to add in. So the Sway, the advantage of the Sway of having that template option and being able to create on a smaller scale and upload from a Word document is huge. That's not in Adobe Spark. But if the Sway, and I also think the Adobe Spark would be much harder to collaborate in compared to a Sway.
We've also found with Adobe Spark, getting images, if they want to put their own images, especially if they have them on their phone or something, they've got to, you know, somehow get them onto the computer, download them to the computer. It only takes images off of the computer or the ones that you might have saved in a Google Photos folder, which is really
okay.
Cool. And so that slows things down. But I think Adobe Spark is nice in its simplicity as well. It only gives them a couple of font options, only gives them a couple of template options.
Right.
It unlike PowerPoint and Google Slides where there's just like 100,000, where kids can get lost in that. I think Sway and Spark both kind of limit those choices.
I think I was just thinking this as I was listening, that the thing that I love about things like Sway and Spark is that, you know, it used to be that if you wanted to design a website, you had to be like a professional web developer who knew HTML coding and like had all that memorized. And now it's like anybody can be a creator because it's so easy. And so I love that, you know, when I first started teaching, it would have never occurred to me to have fifth graders create a website. And then when I left teaching, it was like, heck yeah, go create a website, because it's so much easier now. So I think if you're scared, like, I think that's the thing for teachers. Like, I think sometimes there's still this mindset that you have to be this amazing, you know, to design a web page has to be this big deal. And with things like Sway and Spark and, you know, even Google Sites and things like that, like, anybody can create, and it's pretty easy, and kids can probably click through and figure it out a whole lot faster than you could anyway. But you don't have to know HTML code. You don't have to know all of that logistical stuff anymore. It's just a few simple clicks. And so even, you know, you're the youngest kids can be creators.
Absolutely.
And I like the fact, as a high school English speech person who listened to a lot of presentations, I like that there are so many more, from Prezi to Adobe Spark to Powtoons to Animoto to Sway. And in addition to slides and PowerPoint, I just like that students, by the time I have them, most of them have played with a few different tools, and they can find the tool that they work well in and that they know how to navigate. And then I get different types of presentations that I can look at. And it's a little bit more interesting as a person listening to a 17-year-old's speech. It's more interesting if they have some creative visual that is unique to them that they have brought to life. So I like that Sway is yet another tool to put in that category of here's another option.
The high school teachers I worked with, they implemented Sway right away for one of the biology reports. And she said, the biology teacher said, gosh, it just changed that report. Just like, I'll never do anything different. It just made it so much easier for them. She created a Word document with an outline and really made them focus on the content first and getting the words right. And then once the content had been approved by her and it looked good, then she let him move into designing the Sway. And she just said, I got a much better product because the Sway only let them have limited text and pictures. I didn't have paragraphs on each slide. And so they really their presentation was better than it had been in the past too. And so she was like, we're never going back. This is the best tool we've ever used for presentations for sophomore biology.
So thanks for Sway.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.